Once upon a time, in a thick and dark forest, there was a little squirrel who lived in a tree with his mom. He was an adorable baby with soft gray fur and a bushy tail. And every day he would watch the birds flying around him and wish that he could fly too. One day, while playing near his home, Sammy the squirrel found a shiny feather on the ground. It was big and beautiful, just like the feathers of the birds that he admired so much. Sammy was very excited. Maybe if he tied this feather to his tail, he could finally fly like the birds. When Sammy told his mom about his new feather and his plan to fly, she just shook her head and sighed. "Oh, Sammy," she said, "squirrels cannot fly. We are not birds. Our tails are not made for flying." Sammy felt sad after hearing these words from his mom. He didn't want to be a squirrel anymore. He wanted to be a bird. As days passed, Sammy kept looking for a bigger and better feather that he could use to fly, but he never found one. One day, Sammy met a wise old owl in the forest. Sammy asked the owl, "Can I fly with your help?" The owl blinked his big yellow eyes slowly and said, "Sammy, you can't fly because you don't have wings. I'm sorry, but you can't fly without wings." Sammy was so upset after hearing this that he ran away and started crying. He sat on a branch and thought, "I'll never be able to fly. I'll never be able to soar through the sky and feel the wind under my wings. I'm just a silly little squirrel." As he cried, Sammy didn't notice a pair of feet walking towards him. It was a little girl. She had curly brown hair and big, curious eyes. "Why are you crying, little squirrel?" she asked. Sammy wiped his tears and said, "I want to fly like a bird, but I can't. I don't have wings or a feather that's big enough to fly." The little girl smiled and said, "Well, I can't help you become a bird, but how would you like to have an adventure with me?" Sammy looked at her in surprise and asked, "An adventure? What kind of adventure?" The girl reached out her hand and said, "Come with me and I'll show you." She took him to a nearby field where several hot air balloons were lined up. They were all different colors, red and blue, and even pink. Sammy had never seen anything like this before. The little girl explained, "These are hot air balloons. Would you like to go for a ride in one?" Sammy couldn't believe his ears. He had never been in a hot air balloon, but it looked really fun, so he said yes. The little girl helped Sammy get into the basket of the hot air balloon. Then she climbed in after him. A man was waiting for them. He had a big white beard and a friendly smile. "Are you ready for an adventure?" he asked them. Sammy and the girl nodded their heads. And with that, the man started to steer the balloon. It went higher and higher until they were above the clouds. Sammy had never seen the world from this angle before. Everything looked so beautiful. He could see the river winding through the trees and the houses that looked like tiny Lego blocks. Sammy felt very happy. He was having the adventure of his life. But then he remembered his mom. He hadn't seen her since he left home that morning. And he started to worry. Sammy asked the man steering the balloon, "Can we go back now? I need to go home." The man looked at him and said, "Of course, little squirrel. We can go anywhere you want." So he steered the balloon back toward Sammy's house. When Sammy saw his mom, he shouted, "Mom, I'm back." His mom came running and hugged him tightly. She was so relieved to see him. After calming down a bit, Sammy told his mom all about his amazing adventure and how he had flown in a hot air balloon. His mom listened patiently, and when Sammy was done, she said, "That sounds like a wonderful adventure. Sammy, I'm glad you had fun." Sammy was still very upset that he couldn't fly like the birds, so he asked his mom again, "Can I ever fly, Mom?" His mom looked at him and said, "You know, Sammy, you may not be able to fly like the birds, but you can have your own adventures. You just need to use your imagination." Sammy thought about this for a moment. Then he asked, "Can I have an adventure tomorrow, Mom?" His mom smiled and said, "Of course you can, Sammy. You can have an adventure every day if you want." Sammy was so happy. He realized that he didn't need wings or a feather to fly. All he needed was his imagination. That night, Sammy snuggled up in his nest with his mom. He told her all about his plans for tomorrow's adventure. They talked for a long time, and eventually, Sammy fell asleep. He dreamed that he was flying in a hot air balloon with his mom. They were soaring through the clouds, and he felt the wind beneath him. It was the most wonderful feeling in the world. And as he slept, he knew that he was the luckiest little squirrel in the whole wide forest, because he had a mom who loved him very much, and a best friend, a little girl who took him on amazing adventures. The next morning, Sammy woke up feeling refreshed and full of energy. He couldn't wait to start his new adventure. He quickly got out of bed and went to see his mom. "Good morning, Mom," he said excitedly. "What are we going to do today?" His mom yawned and stretched. "Well, why don't we go for a walk in the forest and see what we can find?" Sammy loved this idea. He put on his favorite red cap and went outside. He and his mom started walking through the trees, and soon they came across a beautiful butterfly. It was blue and had black spots. "Wow, look at that," Sammy said. The butterfly fluttered its wings and landed on a flower. Sammy and his mom sat down on a nearby log and watched it. After a while, the butterfly flew away, and Sammy and his mom continued their walk. They walked for a long time, and soon it was lunchtime. Sammy and his mom sat down under a tree and took out their lunch. "This is my favorite part of the adventure," Sammy said happily. He loved spending time with his mom. After lunch, Sammy and his mom walked some more. They saw a family of rabbits and a group of deer. Sammy was having a great time. He didn't want the adventure to end, but soon it was time to go home. When they got back to Sammy's house, he gave his mom a big hug. "Thank you for the adventure, Mom," he said. "I had so much fun." His mom hugged him back. "I'm glad you had fun, Sammy," she said. "Remember, you can have an adventure every day if you want." Sammy nodded his head. He knew that he was lucky to have a mom who loved him and a best friend who took him on adventures. He went inside his house and curled up in his nest. He closed his eyes and thought about his day. He had seen a beautiful butterfly and had an amazing picnic lunch. Sammy was very happy. He knew that he didn't need to fly to have an adventure. All he needed was his imagination and his mom's love. The end.